Fantastic. Welcome everybody to another Global Expansion Team Zoom. I'm going to promote Bo. Hopefully that's not going to create background noise. There he is. Tonight we've got the amazing Rebecca Wiens. Rebecca Wiens came from a nursing background. Got that, Bo? Sorry about that, everybody.
I've turned it on.
Yep. There we go. There we go. So Rebecca came from a nursing background. And so Rebecca, thanks so much for joining us on the Zoom tonight.
Thank you for inviting me.
Absolutely. So tell, for people that don't know you as well as we do, tell us a little bit about your background, what you were doing before you were introduced to Asea. What were you up to?
Well, I have officially been a registered nurse this month, 30 years. So I was busy doing that through all the years, and I was introduced to Asea in 2010, enrolled but didn't pay it much attention, went on with my nursing career. And then it was sometime later that we decided to engage, and all of a sudden it occurred to me that I had spent 25 years managing illness and not getting anybody well. And so I kind of had a paradigm shift, and now I'm quite a rebel when it comes to mainstream medicine. I just a lot of times laugh at it. I appreciate it when it's needed, but sometimes I'm like, where did we ever think that that was appropriate? And so I became more interested in more things, more natural. And that's what really, we were already introduced to Asea. I started to do my research. I realized that redox was important. I did my research on Pubmedgov, which is a government site that peers do the studies, and they're reviewed by peers, and for all of the guidelines that are necessary to make sure that they are fair and are reporting honestly. And so I started to understand the importance of redox signaling. And then it was a little time went by, and the independent laboratory BioAgilytics took the product and verified that in every bottle were trillions of redox signaling molecules. And that's kind of when I was all in. That's when I said, I can do this and I can feel good. And I know that I'm telling the truth and I don't have any apologies for it. So that's when I really was all in.
All right. So you said you were introduced to the product early on and you didn't really pay much attention. Why was that? Why didn't you pay much attention to Asea when you were first introduced?
Well, I had been, Ed and I had gotten married, and he was in another network marketing company. And I saw changes that actually began to happen before I met him, and they continued. And I was real disappointed in network marketing. I thought, I don't have a place for it. I don't trust it. And so that was a big piece of why I did go visit the home office, and I felt really good about the people I met. And that's why I enrolled, because I did have a real good gut feeling that they were good people. But then I also knew that companies don't last more than a couple of years typically. And I was busy in my nursing career, and I started having grandchildren, and it just was something that fortunately I had enrolled, but I didn't do anything with it. I just let it go.
So when you say some time went by and eventually we decided to engage, what made you start to engage?
Ed said, you know, Rebecca, this company's still around and they're having good product results. The testimonies can't be denied. And so I said, okay, let's go for it. And I was still working full-time as a nurse. And it was almost 3 years later before I realized that it was costing me money to go to my nursing job. So I left that and started in with him full-time. And that was in 2017.
So was the network marketing business model a block for you? Was it an objection? Like, I do not like to do business in this way.
Absolutely. Because all I ever knew was the old models, that the kinks hadn't been worked out yet when I was maybe 25 years old, something like that. And so no, I just didn't have a good taste in my mouth about it at all.
So how did you get over that hurdle?
I watched and I realized that it was the most fair compensation plan around. And when people would say, oh, it looks like a pyramid scheme, I think, nope, the job I'm in looked like a pyramid scheme. There was, no matter how hard I worked or how good my reviews were, I was going to get the same raise as the next person. Literally working for the government, it was like how many years, months, weeks you had been there, not how you performed. Now, if I had performed really, really bad, I guess they could get rid of me, but you could be the hardest working nurse and you would get the same benefits that one that just did what was required and did nothing extra. So that was disappointing. And I realized that with network marketing, you get paid according to how hard you work. And that's fair. You determine what you're worth. Nobody else determines what you're worth. And that thinking, I was like, where have I been all these years? Why didn't I think about this before, that I could put in the time and effort into network marketing and I could progress. I could put the time and effort into my nursing career in mainstream nursing and be who knows where at the end of my career, who knows? Because somebody else was going to dictate that.
So there's one Rebecca Wiens, and there's, 40 hours, 80 hours, depending on how much and hard you're going to work in a work week. And that's how you were getting compensated with nursing. Now you've got a team that spans the globe, hundreds, thousands of people around the globe. And so you're getting paid way more compensated for way more than 40, 80 hours a week, probably even more than 40, 80 hours an hour. So when did the light bulb goes on where this is, holy moly, this is magical?
It's still coming on. I still sometimes say, how is this happening? Now, do we work? We work. You know it, it's work. It's not called network marketing for nothing. You work. But really and truly, you ask me when the light come on, I still sometimes look around and Ed will tell me a piece of the business information. I'm like, what? Where did they come from? Where did this kind of income come from? So I can't tell you yet that the light's completely on, because it's still, once in a while, I'm still shocked. It's like, what? How does this happen? But I know that it does. And if you put in the time and you do the work, the results will come. They just will.
And so how do you approach other people that really maybe have a bad taste for network marketing like you did, or don't understand the model like really you didn't? How do you explain to them what you're doing and why you're working with this company, and why you're no longer, working in nursing, but working in network marketing with a cellular health company?
Well, for me, I have I guess the best of both worlds. I have Ed, who's the real business one, and I'm the product person. So when I speak with people, I usually go from the product side. And I will tell you that when they hear me, they know that I mean what I'm saying. And when you speak to people about it, they can tell your passion or your BS. People know it doesn't take long. So when I meet people, I had someone the other day ask me, so what has it done for you? And it was a nurse. And I said, well, how many women do you know that have had any semblance of ovarian disease and had surgery and never had to have treatment? And they're like, what? Nobody. I said, now you do. Now you know somebody. And they hear that passion and they know that I believe in the product. And a lot of times it starts with tell me how I can get this. And we'll go from there. And then the business piece comes. Now, if Ed's going to introduce it, he kind of goes from a different angle of, do you need financial health? Or can I show you a way to get paid for what you're worth, really get paid what you're worth, not what someone else says you're worth? And he'll go from that angle, but I typically leave with the product.
So you saw these studies from Pubmed.gov, and you started to get, aware that there was all kinds of published studies on redox signaling molecules, and that's what is in, Asea's product. when did it, when did you start to believe that you had something that nobody else in the world had and that everybody else in the world deserved to know about? When did those light bulbs start to go on?
When the independent laboratory took the product and said in every bottle are trillions of redox signaling molecules. And then I knew that we had something that nobody else had. And I knew that we had something that was legitimate. So I was all in.
So you can fish around pubmed.gov and put in anything you're curious about, and then put redox in there and see what published studies have been done on that specific cellular imbalance.
Exactly. And it's interesting. I have people say, has Asea done a study on this or done a study on that? I said, if Asea did a study on everything that needs to be studied, nobody could afford the product. But you can go to pubmed.gov. You can put in redox and almost any condition you can think of. And you can know how important redox signaling molecules are for those conditions. So Asea doesn't really, as far as I'm concerned, now this is just my opinion, Asea doesn't need to do any more research. Research is continuing every day. More is being found out about redox signaling molecules. What I like to see them do is ensure that we have the quality product, because that's really the only piece of it that was missing in the beginning for me was, do we have redox signaling molecules? And we do.
And so now we have some incredible redox signaling molecules, but we've also expanded our palette. So we have not only the labor, which is what the molecules do, right? But we have the materials, so we can actually build health with the labor and the materials. What's your favorite product?
My favorite one is the Mind. The energy gives me a little bit more boost than I really need, but a lot of people do need it. I get that. But the Mind, I actually took it today. We did our exercise at 5:15 this evening. We usually go in the mornings. And so about an hour and a half before I went, I took the Mind. And even I can tell you the one thing I noticed, because I started with a trainer after I had brain surgery, mainly to get my balance back. And that was a struggle. And then to get some strength. And I did a back lunge where you squat and raise your arms straight up, and I looked straight ahead, and I was able to focus and never lose my balance through the whole routine. And that's the first time I've been able to do that. So I said to my trainer, I said, it must be the Mind, because that's the only variable that had changed. That just happened this afternoon.
Oh,
So,
really?
and it's my favorite. When we were in convention, I'm just going to be honest, my mind will be all over the page, sitting in that seat, listening. And not that they're not good. The speakers are fantastic. It was me. I took it at convention, and I was able to be alert and focused the entire time.
So you're talking about the cell performance products that we just released at the convention. We released the Redox Mood, the Redox Mind, and the Redox Energy. And so the Redox Mind is your favorite. Have you tried the new skincare?
I do. I use it every day.
What do you think?
I thought that it couldn't get any better, but I think it has. I think it has. I like the hyaluronic acid in the serum, in the new serum. I know that indeed it does help moisture to be brought to your skin. And I'll tell you a little interesting story that this happened today as well. My best friend's an oncology nurse, and she went to give chemotherapy, and they sent her a 15 milliliter syringe. And she said, I've never given chemotherapy in more than 3 millimeters. You got to send me 5 syringes. I'm not doing it. No, it's okay. It's okay. She said, you got to prove it to me before I do it. And they actually had put hyaluronic acid in that syringe, because when they inject it, it creates a fluid, more hydration at that area, and they can do the whole 15 cc's. And I thought, so we know that hyaluronic acid is a good plumping agent, and it's native, it's natural, what you already have in your body. So it's not like you're putting Botox or anything like that. So I thought that was pretty interesting, that just from a whole nother angle, we know what that one thing in our serum does.
Right, right. So do you like the Redox Mind better than the Redox Drink or the Renew 28?
No, I'm like Alan, I can't tell you that when I had my second child and my third child and my fourth child that I liked the first one less. So no, the liquid is my go-to foundation. And when people call me about the nutritionals and all that, I'm like, the liquid is your foundation to build everything else you do on.
Yeah. And why are you such a fan of the liquid?
Well, that was what we had for a good while. And I've had 2 life-changing events that I have to give Asea a lot of credit for my survival. And so no one can argue with me about that. I mean, it's not up for discussion. The liquid is what I do every day.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, when you feel like a product has contributed to your survival, you get pretty passionate about it.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It's just like when I share my experience that I had when I had surgery, and I tell people I visited a place that I know why people don't want to come back. If somebody wants to have a discussion with me about if heaven exists or not, that's not up for discussion for me. I've had an experience. They have an argument, so I feel the same way about the Asea liquid.
Yeah. Yeah. So they say that you really have to believe, in order to be successful in this business, you really have to have rock solid belief in yourself, in the company, in the products, and in the business model of network marketing. Do you feel like you've got rock solid belief in all 4 areas?
Well, I first had rock solid belief in the company because when I met the people, I just knew in my gut that they were good people. I knew that. Next, I think came the product. The network marketing piece is pretty solidified. My hardest piece was believing in myself. I don't think there's any question about that. And a lot of it was, you think, are people going to think I have lost my mind? I have walked away from a nursing career and I'm not going back. And what do they think? That was probably more important at the time. Now that's not too much a big deal. But like tonight, before we got on this call, I was a nervous wreck. I said, Ed, what in the world is wrong with me? And this is how I handle it every time. If I'm going into a convention meeting or somewhere where I'm feeling uncomfortable, I know I don't appear to be an introvert, but I think I am. I say, you know what? And this is good practical information for the average person. I say, none of them pay my bills. None of them are going to go to sleep tonight with me on their minds. Why do I worry about what anybody's thinking about me who's not even thinking about me? And then I can be me. Then I can kind of rise above it and go on and be me. And I see a lot of people in our business that struggle with that. And you just have to figure out how you're going to rise above it.
Absolutely. They say that this business is a personal growth business with a compensation plan attached, right? And
Exactly.
so you have to work on yourself harder than you work on your job, right?
Right.
Yeah. Have you ever had anybody say to you, oh, Rebecca, making money off people's misery?
No, but that's because probably, especially here in the South, they wouldn't say it to my face. They just
Yeah, I had somebody say that to me one time. I was so nervous about talking to him because we were in church, and I thought, don't ever mix business and church, but I felt like I had to say something to this poor guy. He was suffering, and Tyler Norton says that if we don't do our job well, people will suffer, so I thought, I gotta put it out there, and he can tell me he's not interested, but I've got to put it out there. Who knows? I'm going to have a guilt trip, So I finally mustered up my courage and went back there, and I said something to this poor guy, and he looked back at me and he said, oh, Cindy, making money off people's misery. And then anyway, God, I said, okay, now you made me mad. And then I told him about what I do when I get mad. But anyway, how do you avoid feeling like you're taking advantage of people because you're wanting them to buy something from you and they're in a vulnerable place? Do you ever go there as a nurse?
I used to. I think I used to worry about that. Not so much anymore. Would you go to a car dealership and the car guy comes out to sell you a car and you say, oh, you're just making money off of me, taking advantage of me today? No, nobody says that.
Yeah, but the difference is that you went to the car dealership. When we're going out talking to people, they didn't come to a car dealership. They don't even know we're going to bring up Asea, right? So it's a little, I mean, so, you know, they didn't know that a sales pitch was coming. Do you ever feel like you're giving people a sales pitch, or you feel like you're more in education, or how's that whole thing go?
I really don't feel like I'm giving people a sales pitch. And I'm going to tell you what I believe is the key to that. Listening to what they want. You won't ever hear me sitting with somebody that's sick and me talk to them about the business of Asea. I listen to what they need or want. But now I have been known to say, and been pretty blunt, if I have something that could help you feel better, would you want to know about it? And I get tickled because who's going to say no? I don't want to feel better. I don't want to know about it. Pretty much nobody. So they open the door. But if they say to me, I don't think I can ever feel better, but I'll think about it. I leave it alone. I don't keep on. I don't keep on and on. I just drip a little more later. We've just been real blessed for people to say to us, what do you do? How do you get to travel? That's one of the big things we get asked. How do you get to travel? Don't you work? And we explain that we work wherever we are, wherever we go. You know, and that kind of opens the door. But I'm not a cold caller, I guess. Some people are, and it works for them. I think that's great. It's just not what I typically do.
So if you're not a cold caller, how do you find people to talk to? Because you've been in this business for a while now. I mean, you probably have talked to a lot of people that you already know. So how do you keep your list of people going?
We get out every day. We get out every day. I would dare say there's few days that go by that we don't meet somebody new. That's where we start.
And describe that. Are you going for a walk? Are you going to the grocery store? Are you just living?
Well, we were in the gym this evening, and typically it's just Ed and I and our trainer, because we go at 7 in the morning. And this guy that lives in our building came in that we hadn't met yet, and we met him. His name's John. He's a PA. He works in GI, and we struck up a conversation, and we'll see him again in the gym tomorrow afternoon, and we'll go from there. And he'll eventually say, well, what do you guys do? Because they see us in this building all the time, you know, just going in and out at different hours, and it'll come up. I don't have any doubt, you know, it'll come up.
Yeah, so that's key too. So you didn't pounce on him and talk about Asea the first time you met the guy.
Mm-mm. Nope.
Right?
Nope.
You just made friends with him, start talking to him, say hello, and you know.
Only time we do that is if we would happen to be at some kind of business thing. You know, we used to, I don't think we do them much anymore, but when we would do the fairs, like a job fair, and we would have a table set up, of course, then you're there for Asea, you're presenting it right off the top. And then of course you talk about it immediately, but not usually. I usually form some kind of relationship first.
Right. So talk about your life, how it's changed since you've been doing Asea. Is it anything like it was when you were doing nursing, or is it completely different?
Completely different. Number one is I have freedom. I don't have to miss a Thanksgiving get together or a Christmas get together. I don't have to ask anybody if I can be off. I can set that schedule myself. And I have always been able to get along with the people I work with, but just sharing honestly, just being honest, I get to literally choose who I want to work with now. I'm not a supervisor and somebody says, we're precepting this many nurses this week for your floor. And I have to figure it out and I'm stuck with them whether I want them or not, So it's just nice to be able to choose your tribe, and you really do get to.
Are you
Not that
traveling?
we exclude anyone, we don't exclude them, but you get to know them and they get to know you, and you're not thrown into the situation of having to work together. You develop a relationship just like you would with your prospects, and that's nice.
Are you traveling more than you used to?
Yes, and I don't know if that's because of network marketing, because of Ed Wiens. Because I told him the other day, I said, anything happens to you, I'm probably not going to be traveling this much because I don't like the planning, figuring out the flights and the places to stay and the schedule. So I pack and go. He tells me what the weather's going to be like and I pack and go. But yes, we would not be able to do that if we were in traditional jobs. We would not be able to.
Well, and I know you're a big family person. And so when you had your nursing job, did you have to work your family around your job?
I was pretty stubborn most of all the years of raising my children, and I ran into some problems on my job because of that. But my very first job interview, the lady that interviewed me said, well, I spoke with your nursing instructor, and she told me that if we hired you, you would be here, you would be prompt, you would do everything you needed to do. But if it came down to choosing between your job or your family, every person in this hospital could die. I said, well, she pretty much told you the truth. So I set a precedence always. If I needed to be home, I even took leave a couple of times when my daughter was in a car accident and stuff like that. I just never have let my job interfere with my family a whole lot. But now I don't have to get anyone else's permission to keep that from happening. This week we were supposed to have a grandkid to take him back and forth to baseball camp. He ended up with ear infections and couldn't do it. But I would have had to gotten someone else's permission, or I just wouldn't have been able to do something like that. And now I can do it all.
They say that there's one time where you get into Asea and there's another time where Asea gets into you. Can you think of, and I know you've had many experiences where you just get tingles all up and down your spine. You just feel like you're the luckiest person in the world, like you're so blessed. Tell us about one of those times where you just think, gosh, I love this company. I love this business. I love this product. I am the most blessed person in the world. You ever feel like that?
Oh, because I didn't start using the product regularly until August of 2014. But in 2017, when I had the brain issue and had the bulge in the artery and had stents put in, and it didn't rupture. I mean, a 3 millimeter artery the size of a coffee straw bulges to 1 inch and doesn't rupture. What are the chances of that? And I remember going to convention 2.5 months after I had the procedure. And I'm sitting there. I had already done my research. I already knew that there were 4 variables that determined rupture versus non-rupture of these bulges in the artery. And it was age, size, and location. And none of them were in my favor. The 4th one was the degree of inflammation already in the body. Studies had already shown that redox signaling molecules decrease inflammation. So I knew I had that in my favor. And 2.5 months later, I'm sitting in convention. This is when it got into me. The Tourette laboratory studies were presented. And in one of those pathways, the genetic pathway that was affected in a positive ways, there were 5 genetic pathways. In one of those pathways was increases arterial elasticity. And Ed must have had bruises on his thigh because I was just punching him, and I said, this has really made a difference in my life. And from then on, I was good to, it's like that heaven experience. I have an experience, you have an argument. So whose argument can stand up to an experience? Nobody's.
Absolutely.
Yep.
So last question, what do you say when people say it's so expensive?
What's your health worth?
There you go.
How much have you spent on copays? Even if you have good insurance, how much have you spent on copays and deductibles with your mainstream healthcare? And a lot of people, if they add it up, they'll realize that I'm spending a lot there.
Yeah,
So
absolutely. Yeah, and they're running on that treadmill, never getting in front of the 8 ball, right? They're not doing something that's getting to the foundation of the problem.
managing, you're taking one pill for your, oh, I can't name all the things, but then you've got to take another one to counteract the side effects of that one. And then you got to take another one to counteract the side effects of either one of those two, or those two mixed together. I had someone call me today and she's doing supplements and natural stuff. And she said, what would you do if you were me? I said, well, what you've been doing hadn't been working. Is that fair enough to say? And she said, fair enough. I said, I can tell you what I would do. I cannot tell you what to do. I said, I would put away because she can't decide what was making her sick. I said, I'd put away every bit of it. I'd spend 10 to 14 days. I'd drink a bottle of Asea a day for 10 to 14 days. And then I would add one supplement at the time for 2 weeks, because we get, especially with prescriptions, we just get into a cycle of spinning our wheels and not really getting anywhere.
Yeah, absolutely. So a bottle a day was what you'd be recommended her for.
And I don't ever do that to anybody, but I remember after I had brain surgery, I had such fog, and I spent 10 days and drank 16 ounces a day, and I slept 7 days. But when I got through that 7 days, I mean, I ate 1 meal a day, showered every other day, maybe, that brain fog lifted and it never came back. And I said to her, do you have the privilege of resting? And she said, oh, yes, I do. I said, then do it. Just go ahead and douse yourself and do it.
Yeah, there you go. Well, Rebecca, we could talk all night. Just love you and love your story. Thank you so much for giving us insight into your journey with Asea, and really, really appreciate you.
We appreciate you too, Cindy, you and Bo. Thank you so much. It's been a good ride, and the ride is really just beginning. I really believe that. I was so excited about the new products because I said, for a long time, we've had no competition, and we still have no competition, but with the new products, we are the competition.
There we go.
So I was real excited about that.
Yeah. Well,
We'll reach a whole new demographic.
Say that again.
We'll reach a whole new demographic.
A whole new demographic. Yeah. And young people need to know about healthy things early in their life so they don't end up with problems later in their life, right?
And I did research on each individual ingredient in the new products, and man, am I excited. Just excited. So
yeah. And that's the studies that are done on those ingredients that Asea chose to put in the cell performance products have already been clinically proven. And so you can Google the individual ingredients and you can see what they've been proven to do for your health already.
Yep. I saw on one of the ingredients that WebMD, it was a quote, this has been used for obesity. And I was like, nobody would have really thought about that. Of course, you say if you have more energy, you're probably going to be up and moving, you're probably going to lose some weight. But anyway, I'm excited.
Yeah, excellent. Well, thank you so much. I know it's 9:30 on the East Coast. We'll let you get off to your husband and your life, but we sure appreciate you, Rebecca.
We appreciate you too. Thank you for having me on.
All right. Good night, Rebecca. Good night, everybody.